Hey guys, welcome back to another video. If you like what you hear today, consider dropping a comment below and let me know what you thought of the stories. I always respond and look at the comments every time I drop a new video. And if you have your own scary story, you can always submit that to me directly right through my website at www.southerncannibal.com. And without further ado, let's begin on the stories. A couple of months ago, my sister started talking to this boy online named Ben. The two of them had a lot in common and were only about a year apart in terms of their ages. We didn't really think anything of it at first because it's kind of just normal to have online friends these days. My sister is pretty introverted, so it was really nice to hear that she had someone she could chat to. From what I understand, Ben was also there for her emotionally as well, if that makes any sense. My sister became quite attached to him really quickly. Ben had also introduced her to a few of his friends as well. They all just seemed like your typical edgy teenagers, the kind that post selfies with emo song lyrics and stuff like that. Ben really seemed like just a normal caring friend. He even messaged me a couple of times whenever he was concerned about my sister being upset about something. He seemed genuine, and I was really happy that my sister had found someone like this. One day, my sister had asked my mom if she could meet up with Ben in the city. He lived in another state and had organized to spend a week in our state with his aunt, so it seemed like the perfect opportunity for the two of them to meet up. They arranged a date and time to meet in the city, and my mom and I accompanied her. When the day finally came though, he didn't even show up. He made some kind of excuse that his aunt wasn't going to drive him there, and we figured that she was probably just concerned about Ben meeting someone that he only knows over the internet. I'll be honest, I really did have a really bad feeling about their meetup while we were waiting for Ben to show up, but I just stupidly ignored it. My sister, understandably, was quite upset that he hadn't shown up. Ben sent me a message apologizing to us for having to run around after him. He went on to explain that sometimes his aunt can just be really unreasonable. At the time, I genuinely believed that he was a decent person and that he wasn't lying about his situation. A couple of months passed with just the two of them chatting away like normal. At some point, my mom gets the idea that she and my sister could just fly to his state and meet him. Ben really seemed to like that idea, so they ordered the flight tickets. One day out of the blue, my sister then burst into my room, clearly very frightened. She told me to block Ben right away, as well as the two friends that he'd introduced me to. When I asked why, she explained to me that Ben had been a cover-up identity for a person that had previously threatened her using another account. Every single one of the pictures that he posted were literally from someone else's account. She found all of this out when she decided to confront him. Apparently, his two so-called friends were all fake accounts run by him in order to keep up the illusion. Whoever this person was, after being confronted by my sister, actually admitted that they were keeping tabs on her. They had been chatting for months, and she had likely told him a lot of personal things as well. After my mom found out, all of the flights were immediately canceled, and we were all pretty spooked about the whole thing. We couldn't really tell the police because my sister was a dingus and she didn't keep a copy of all of the messages that the account had sent to her. We actually managed to contact the guy whose pictures were stolen and told him about the whole incident, and the account was taken down shortly afterwards. So to whomever Ben really is, let's just never cross paths ever again, and stay the hell away from my sister. This story happened almost 10 years ago. I got home from work one day and logged into Facebook to find a message from someone that I didn't know. It was too long ago to remember verbatim what was said, but it was along the lines of, "Hey, I know you have no idea who I am, but I've been trying to decide on what to do for a few days, and I figured I'd let you know what's been going on. Someone's been catfishing me using your identity for over 2 years, and I just found out about it last week." The sender of the email was clearly pretty shaken up and, understandably, was experiencing a big mix of emotions. According to her, she had met the imposter online a little over 2 years ago prior to writing this, and apparently they had been engaged in a pretty intimate long-distance relationship for a majority of that time. The imposter had created a Facebook and had over time reposted almost all of my photos with their own captions to them, including a good amount of art that I'd drawn that they also took credit for. They created fake profiles for a good amount of my close family and friends as well, and they would even comment on the photos to make the photos seem more legit. The funniest part to me though is that although most things in my real life seem to be mirrored in this fake profile, I, a straight male, was instead portrayed as trans. I think the main reason for this was that the sender of the email and the imposter would actually speak on the phone, and the imposter turned out to be a female in the end, and therefore needed a reason to justify her more feminine sounding voice. The sender of the email was justifiably both angry and creeped out and wanted to find the catfish. She started asking me a lot of questions about my life, but phrasing them like, "Is your sister's name so-and-so, and did you go to this high school?" Some of them were clearly information that anyone could glean from a quick browse on my profile, but then she asked me, "Is your best friend so-and-so?" Which struck me as odd since despite this person actually being my closest friend and who I spend the most of my time with, we've barely had any Facebook photos together, and most are from a really long time ago. Then she asked, "Were you adopted and are your half-siblings named so-and-so?" Which totally sealed the deal for me since I know for a fact that I'd never posted about being adopted online before. The sender of the email already had an idea that this person had known me in real life, but this confirmed it for me. The sender of the email had contacted me shortly after confronting the imposter for the very first time. I guess after about 2 years, they'd finally become suspicious of the fact that the imposter wouldn't show their face. I honestly have no idea how it took this long for them to figure out that they were being played, but I'm glad they finally decided to give the ultimatum of, "Show your face or I'm cutting you off." I'm pretty sure this is the point where the imposter admitted to being a catfish and that she'd been using the identity of someone that she had a crush on in high school before hanging up. I was given the URL so that I could look through the profile myself, which happened to be up for about 2 days after I saw it before it was all removed. It was definitely really bizarre. The imposter had posted more than I ever had on Facebook, and it genuinely seemed like they lived a pretty involved double life online as me. Just about everyone I'd posted photos with on my real profile would then have their own fake profiles created that had enough content to be genuinely convincing so that they could be tagged in and then validate these new photos. Some of these fake profiles seem to have gone and made their own so-called friends as well, and I really wondered if any of those were used to facilitate even more online dating deception. Either way, the amount of time that this person had spent fabricating their alter ego's online presence was pretty shocking to me. The whole time that I'd been crawling down this Facebook rabbit hole, the sender of the email was actually looking through my real profile. After some time passed, she sent me a message saying, "Did you take these photographs?" and showed me what I remember as a black and white photo of a barn or something. I hadn't, which was pretty weird since everything else on the fake profile actually originated with me, and she'd noticed the discrepancy. We both tried reverse image searching, but with no luck. Then, either through a stroke of genius or somewhat suspiciously, I couldn't really tell, she thought to flip the fake number that the imposter had gave her into the fake Facebook profile around in reverse. A Google search came up with a landline that belonged to the home address of a girl that I'd gone to high school with. I couldn't believe it. Real me was actually Facebook friends with the real imposter's profile, so we both went snooping around and found the photo that she'd claimed that I'd taken. This pretty much confirmed to me that this was the imposter. I'm pretty sure there were more indicators to the sender as well, but I can't really remember. I thought about messaging her for a really long time, but decided that it probably wouldn't lead to anything good. At the time, my thoughts were definitely, let's not meet. I asked a few times with the sender of the email just to try and decompress a bit, but honestly, I just wanted to distance myself from the whole situation, and also had my suspicions about the sender as well. I figured maybe it was the imposter's one last ditch effort to try and talk to me. Although when it was all over, the sender seemed to be eager to leave this all behind as well, so maybe not. Either way, it was a really strange experience. I felt mostly freaked out and violated, but I guess there was a small part of me that was really flattered by it. I had a lot of mixed emotions. The weirdest part to me is that I'm really an approachable person and would have definitely been willing to talk to and probably be friends if this person had just approached me instead. Although I'm still not too sure if this was done out of an obsession for me, or if this person felt like I was just a suitable image to base this fabricated persona off of. I remember talking to her probably about twice throughout high school, and really didn't have a very good idea of who she was other than a quiet hipster girl. If either person involved ever happens to read this, I'd definitely be happy to talk now. It's been years, but I've gone from being very put off to always wondering why this person chose me over countless other more attractive or interesting people online to base their other life off of. According to the sender who contacted me, she'd probably spent more time online pretending to be me than she actually did going about her own life. I have a tumultuous history of addiction and have had plenty of my own escapes, which is why it's always fascinated me that someone would want to pretend to live someone else's life as a means of doing that. Because at the end of the day, the person pretending to be me really had no idea that I spent my own time daydreaming of being a different person as well. I guess it just shows you that no matter how much you wish you were someone else, chances are that person probably has plenty of their own reasons to want to escape their demons as well. So I have a bit of an update to all this. For anyone still interested, I recently spoke to a really good friend of mine who told me that while they don't know the perpetrator personally, they do know that they identify as non-binary now. Which to me sort of confirms my suspected motive, which was to explore their own sexuality through another identity to one degree to another. But I'll probably never really know for sure. So I had a best friend in high school named Lena. We were friends for about a year and a half, and we would spend almost every weekend at her house, listening to music, watching scary movies, and gossiping. She was a little bit crazy. The kind of girl that would beat up all of her boyfriend's exes unprovoked and catfish people. I say we were best friends, but actually it was more like I looked up to her and she liked that since she could boss me around and hang out with me whenever she pleased. She was extremely manipulative and two-faced. She had a hobby of being nice to girls at school and then going on their social media and making fun of everything they posted. She would befriend people just to get information from them. When we were friends, Lena was dating this guy named Nolan. They dated for about a year and a half and had lots of troubles the last 6 months or so. He wouldn't ever go out drinking most weekends, and she would always cry in the middle of the night and blow up his phone, always yelling at him and making him feel guilty. She was borderline psychotic whenever it came to his exes or the girls he was friends with, and they just weren't really working out, but they stayed together anyway. At some point, Nolan got Lena pregnant, and one of Lena's other friends, whose name was Autumn, became pregnant at the same time from the guy that I was in love with. Naturally, I really wanted nothing to do with Autumn, but because they were pregnant together, Lena started hanging out with Autumn most weekends and totally neglected our friendship. After about a month, I became really fed up with it and just started ghosting her. At first, she tried to apologize about it, but I was not having it. I was really jealous and childish about the whole thing. So eventually Lena got pissed at me and just stopped trying altogether. A couple of months went by and Lena had the baby. Nolan and Lena stayed together to take care of their son, but their relationship was absolutely horrendous at that point. Lena cheated on him and Nolan decided he wanted out of the relationship but continued to see his son and buy things for him. However, Lena and Lena's mother made things very difficult for him by constantly changing the days that he could see his son, and also refusing to let him take his son anywhere besides Lena's house. Lena's mother would also throw out Christmas presents from Nolan, ignore his phone calls, and eventually even told him that he wasn't allowed at the house. Nolan begged for months to see his son, but it was pretty clear Lena and her mother didn't want him in the picture. Nolan even offered to pay child support, but they didn't want that either. They just wanted him gone. So he stopped trying. And apparently even that wasn't what they wanted. Lana took to social media to talk about how Nolan was a total deadbeat. She told everyone that she knew that being a single mother was really hard and that the baby daddy refused to take care of his child. About a year after they broke up, I met Nolan in person. We had been talking online for a couple of months about Lana. We had shared some stories about her crazy meltdowns and all of her manipulative tendencies, and we talked about the time when he came to her house while I was there, and he attempted to scare her by jumping out when she went out the front door, but instead accidentally jumped out at me. He thought it was the funniest thing ever that my face stayed stone cold, and I just said, "Sup." We had a similar sense of humor, and at the time, I really had no one. I had just come out of one of the worst depressive episodes of my life. It had lasted for a good year, and I had dropped out of school, been doing drugs, and isolating myself for weeks at a time, and even considering suicide. He was the one to help bring me back from the brink. He was really kind, and he was my support system. We were really just friends at first. When Lana caught wind of our friendship, she reached out to me. At this point, we hadn't really been friends for about a year and a half. We caught up and talked about what had been happening in our lives. She asked what was going on with Nolan, and I told her we were just friends, and everything seemed fine. That's when her erratic behavior then started up again. She would randomly block me on social media and then unblock me about a month or two later. Sometimes we would talk like, "Hey, how are you? Everything good?" And then the next day I'm blocked. At one point I even asked one of her friends to get her to tell me why she was doing it because I was just totally confused about it. So she unblocked me and told me she was salty about the situation with Nolan and the fact that I was being so friendly with him. I asked her why she kept making up with me and then suddenly getting pissed off again and cutting me off. I told her that I was really tired of thinking things were good only for her to turn around and pretend like we had never said anything to each other. That's when she told me that she can block me or unblock me whenever she wanted, and that I had done her really wrong by abandoning her during her pregnancy and befriending her ex-boyfriend. So then I tried to explain to her why Nolan was my friend. I tried to tell her that Nolan was all I had in the darkest time of my life. I tried to tell her why her neglecting me for Autumn really hurt my feelings, but she wasn't having it. I understand where she was coming from. I mean, I do, and I acknowledge the fact that I acted childishly and in a really cruel way, but I had tried to make up with her multiple times. I tried really hard, and she couldn't even stick with whether she wanted to forgive me or not, so I told her to just go ahead and block me again and be done with it. She told me that she wouldn't block me again, and then she gave me her blessing with Nolan. She said that she was fine if we wanted to date and said that she hoped I had a good life, and I said the same to her, and I really meant it. We had a bad end, but I was glad we could at least wish each other well. It was a few months later that I last spoke to her that Nolan and I had started dating. I had waited so long because I was really worried about Lana, even though we weren't really friends anymore. But she had given me her blessing and she was dating someone new, so I just went with it. It was around this time that I had received a friend request from some girl on Facebook named Casey. Casey said she lived in a really big city in my state, and since we had mutual friends and I had once gone to school in that city, I assumed that we had gone to school together, and I just didn't remember her. She seemed like a real person. She claimed to work at Hooters and had made posts about how her work days went, had several pictures of the same girl, and had made frequent posts about her ex-boyfriend. I accepted the friend request and she messaged me telling me how pretty she thought I was. I thanked her and I told her to message me anytime that she wanted to chat. For the next few months, I was totally clueless. I went about my regular life, posting about the things me and Nolan did, getting my GED, hanging out with friends, visiting my mother, etc. Occasionally I would see some really strange posts on my timeline from Casey, but I didn't really think much about it because I had over 1,000 friends on Facebook, and I rarely even saw them. They were mostly posts about how much she hated her baby daddy and how her line of work just really sucked. But there were two posts in particular that really caught my eye. One was of a post that seemed to be referencing something that I had posted the day before, and the other was of her saying, "We all know a dirty hoe named so-and-so, with my first name. So I decided to go to her profile and then click through months and months of her posts. Some were about her line of work, but everything else was related to me and Nolan. And I mean everything. There were posts of her complaining about her deadbeat baby daddy buying things for everyone but his kid. Posts about how sad she felt about the breakup. Posts about how she missed me and thought of me as a sister. Posts about how I stole her boyfriend, and a ton of other ones crap-talking me. She made fun of my hobbies, had directly referenced some of my posts, and talked about how much she hated me and that I'm a dirty hoe. And her later posts even went so far as to put my initials or full first name in the post. She even had people in the comments egging her on and talking crap too, even though no one knew who she was talking about. But I did. She always mentioned things that only the two of us would know. She would always reference our past experiences. It was undoubtedly Lana, and I knew it. I messaged Casey and I told her that I knew it was Lana. She played dumb and told me that the initials were of another girl that she knew. When I looked up the name she gave me, not a single person on Facebook had that name. When I told her that, she just brushed over it and tried to get me to talk about Lana. So I decided to play along and talk hardcore crap about her. I lied about a lot of things in an attempt to get her to out herself. But in the end, all she did was send a screenshot of our conversation to Lena's account in an attempt to make it look like Casey was real and was trying to help Lena by showing her what kind of person I was. Casey then immediately deleted her account. She didn't block me, she deleted it. I had a friend and my dad check and neither of them could find her profile. So then another month went by and I actually found out she had reactivated the account, and because I can't block a deleted account, she was in my friends list again, and she also had access to my profile for who knows how many days. So I blocked her. She then sent me friend and follow requests on 3 other websites under the Casey name, which I also blocked. It was around that time that me and Nolan began to get a lot of friend requests from obviously fake accounts. We would report them and block them and try to pretend that she wasn't going insane, even though she clearly was. One of these fake accounts was extremely obvious because it had poked both me and Nolan on the same day at the same time. She was taunting us, I guess. I blocked that account too. Please be aware that at this time, Lena had married her boyfriend. She was actually doing all this while married to someone else. About a year later, I thought that it had stopped, and one day I went to the Casey account on my friend's Facebook because I wanted to see if she was still posting about me. Well, when I had scrolled down, I realized that I had missed a post the last time I saw her profile. This post was about Lena mocking the fact that my mother, yes, my birth mother, called her frequently to talk crap about me, and also give her information on me and Nolan. As it turns out, my mother and Lena went to the same college. And I guess my mother thought what better way to make friends than by helping someone stalk her daughter. She would always ask me about mine and Nolan's relationship pretty often. Well, now I know why. She always talked crap about Lena and would act like the perfect mother to my face. She didn't raise me, so I never really trusted her 100%. And for that reason, I never gave her my phone number, address, or any other information that I felt was private. Whenever my dog went missing, she tried to convince me to post my address on Facebook. She kept saying how important it was that people knew exactly where he went missing from. What a load of horse crap. Thank God I didn't, because I might have woken up to Lana punching my head in, or worse. For a while there, I was legitimately really paranoid. Every time I went to the store or went outside, I was always watching my surroundings very closely. Because if Lana was willing to beat the crap out of a girl Nolan had dated for 3 weeks unprovoked, what would she do to me if she saw me in public? Would she kill me? I had never met someone so obsessive. Let me just say, Lana was a horrible friend. She was manipulative, bossy, judgmental, rude, erratic, narcissistic, and let's not forget, totally two-faced. When I felt my first heartbreak, she spent all night talking crap about the guy, saying that I deserved better. Eventually, I talked crap with her to make myself feel better. And what does she do? She messages him on Facebook and tells him everything I said about him. She guilt-tripped me about having other friends. She convinced me to abandon one of my good friends just because she didn't approve of her. She would often ignore me whenever there were people around. If I complained about anyone, she would always tell that person what I said, even if she had said something worse about them. She would go through people's Facebooks and laugh at them and talk about how dorky they were, and not in a nice way. In a, this person is scum for being a bit dorky kind of way. She would always make me feel ridiculous for liking the things that I liked, and I never really felt like I could ever be myself around her. It absolutely amazes me just how many people Lana has manipulated. Even her poor husband probably doesn't know that she was a stalker. So yeah, there you have it. Lana cyberstalked me for 2 years, and if I had given my mother my address, it might have become actual stalking. She hasn't been trying to stalk me for a while now though. I cut my mother off and deleted all but 40 people off of my Facebook, and I made all of my social media accounts totally private to keep this from happening ever again. I'm really hoping that I won't ever hear from Lana ever again. The last obvious sign that I've gotten of her still trying to stalk me is from a fake account that had sent me a friend request about 3 months ago. An account that was a few months old had the same last name as my friend, and only liked 2 Facebook pages. One which was a grocery store page, and the other was mine. My obscure Facebook page. My page that has spaces in between the letters and Japanese letters in the name. My page that you either have to know the exact name or have a link to find. My page that I had already had to ban Lana and Casey from because both accounts also liked it. Sometimes I really wonder if Lana is even trying to be secretive, or if she's just stupid. At least her attempts are few and far between now, so I don't really consider her to be stalking me anymore. Anyways, if you happen to finish this, sorry for such a really long story. I was really young when all of this stuff happened, and I made some really dumb choices, so go easy on me. I know I'm not 100% faultless in this, and yes, me and Nolan are still together. We're actually celebrating our 4-year anniversary in a couple of months, and I couldn't be happier. So Lana, I really hope to never talk to you ever again, and I really hope eventually you stop stalking me for good. It's time to move on. I'd like to think that I have pretty decent instincts now when it comes to knowing who has bad intentions, but I wasn't always as cautious and observant as I am now. When I was in high school, I always felt so ugly. I had low self-esteem and anxiety, which was really more of a problem rather than my looks, so if anyone of the opposite sex gave me even a little attention, I would always start to like them. I was pretty innocent despite how desperate I was, having only kissed one boy, so when I was 17 years old and a college guy put interest into me, I immediately clung to him. I was on this app and I met this guy who lived about 7 hours away from my city. His name was Brandon and he was gorgeous. Blonde hair, muscular, blue eyes, the whole package. He played soccer for his university and he was 19 years old. Honestly, he wasn't my usual type. I really liked guys with darker hair and eyes. I still do, but he was really handsome and really kind. He would always shower me with compliments and talk to me all the time. I lived alone in an apartment with just my cats, so I would always get lonely or scared, and he always comforted me. A month into talking, he started asking me for pictures. Not ones of my face, but obviously nudes or bra pictures. Now, this was nearly about 6 years ago, and I didn't really have a good concept of stranger danger on the internet. I mean, smartphones had only been around for about 2 or 3 years at this point, at least in my school and age group. 17-year-old me who was so insecure wanted to make him happy because I couldn't believe that I had gotten a guy like him. I was ready to do anything he asked. I never sent naked pictures because I was way too insecure for that, but I would send pictures of me in my bra. He would always shower me with compliments, saying how sexy and beautiful I was, and I fell for every word. With time, I started to get upset though. I wanted to see him. I would always send him pictures whenever he asked, but he never sent me any. He would always show me body pictures of him with his shirt off or other things, but the pictures were always really bad quality. When I started getting too persistent, he would always promise that he would start calling me. For some reason, this really appeased me, and we'd talk many times a week. After a couple of months, he got increasingly more sexual with me, telling me what he wanted to do with me and how badly he wanted me. This made me really nervous since I had only ever kissed one boy, but it also made me a little excited as well. It felt really good to be wanted by someone that I had really grown to like. This was all during the first semester of my senior year of high school, and I was going to turn 18 the next semester in late January. As it got to Christmas time, he started to talk about coming to my city to maybe see me for my birthday. This had me really excited since I really wanted to see him in person so badly. We had first talked about me going to him, something that he had really insisted on, but I chickened out and said that I couldn't do the drive alone, which was an excuse. I really didn't want to go to an older guy's house and stay with him alone. My own house made me feel more safe. We planned on a weekend after my birthday, and everything seemed fine. But then one day in my choir class, my best friend, an exchange student from Germany, was talking with me about him. I was telling her about him and showing pictures, and she got very unsettled. Have you seen him on video? I told her no, and she gave me a really skeptical look. Something doesn't feel right about this. There's no way he's real. Not that you couldn't date someone like him, but he's just too perfect. She was very direct and blunt with me about it, something my other friends weren't. So I took her words deeply, and I'm so thankful I did. I immediately asked him for a picture of his face. He made up some kind of excuse about how he couldn't take a picture right then, so I then persisted asking about every day. Finally, my instincts were kicking in and I was getting scared. I told him that I wanted him to video call me. He said no. I fought him on it for hours one night, telling him that if he tells me the truth, I won't get mad. He refused. I put the name that he gave me into Facebook, determined to find him on my own if he wasn't going to give in. Nothing came up on him. I texted him telling him that I couldn't find his Facebook, and he gave in, giving me a completely different name, and then told me, "That's me." I remember just feeling really cold as I read that. I looked up the account, and everything he had told me was a total lie. His name, his face, his age, everything. He was about 25 years old, definitely not 19. I was terrified. I thought that I'd been talking to someone just 2 years older, which is legal in my state, but he was 8 years older. I immediately stopped texting him. That's when he started getting really obsessive. He would text me dozens of times a day and always call me over and over again. He would beg me to answer him and to give him a chance. Then he started threatening me to answer. He told me he had saved all of my pictures. He kept them all, and he told me that he would send all of them to my friends and family on Facebook, show everyone me in my bra, and show all of our messages talking about what he wanted to do to me sexually if we met. Looking back, all of that was much more damaging to him than me, but I was young and stupid and afraid. I hated my body so much, and I was absolutely terrified of people seeing it, so I started talking to him again, much more reserved and cautious this time. The days inched closer to my birthday and the weekend we had planned. Our messages had become bland and short since I was trying to make him lose interest in me, but he never gave up. If I ever took too long to message, then he would threaten me again. My birthday fell on a Monday that year, and he sent me all kinds of messages. I don't even remember what I did that birthday. I didn't have many friends, and I've never liked to celebrate, so it was probably small. When Friday hit, I got a text from him that morning saying that he was driving to my city and that he would pick me up from school. I was absolutely terrified about this. I had lost a lot of my friends the semester before, so they obviously had no clue of my situation. Out of total desperation, I went to one of my guy friends who I hadn't talked to in a couple of months and spilled everything to him. He was a longtime friend, so he was really sympathetic, and he promised to follow me home that day. I went straight to my car, ignoring the mass amount of text that had said, "Where are you? I'm here." My friend drove behind me all the way to my apartment, which he had no clue I was living in, and he actually stayed with me while I cried for a while. I had turned off my phone and my friend left later in the night. Brandon had no clue where I lived, but I was still really paranoid. What if he somehow found me? Only about 3 people knew where I lived. 4 now with my guy friend, and he didn't come in contact with any of them. When I finally turned my phone back on, he was threatening me yet again. I was so exhausted and fed up. I started spam texting him, yelling and venting. I told him how he stressed me out and what he was doing was wrong. I told him to send the pictures and that I didn't care anymore. I started to attack his character, telling him how no one could love him if he hides who he is, then treats people like crap when they catch him in a lie. Thankfully for me, he had enough care for me to take my words to heart. He apologized and he told me that he deleted all of the pictures. He swore to leave me alone as long as we can still talk every now and then as friends. I agreed even though I knew I was lying. I talked to him for about a month with short responses until he finally gave up. Even now at 22 years old, I still see his name appear sometimes. I blocked his number and deleted him off of everything. His name still shows up sometimes on my Instagram or Snapchat when he's trying to re-add me. He's the very reason why I don't give my name or picture out anymore. So Brandon, you lied and collected underage pictures of me and then threatened me with them. You're a terrible person. Don't contact me ever again.